Hello and welcome to Guyanese Swag. My name is McKay. I am your host, and we're here today with the #1 mindset disruptor. She's a certified leadership and mindset coach, international speaker and trainer, international author, and I know you guys are going to enjoy her. Her name is Dr. Alisa Whyte. How are you doing today?
I am excited to be on your show, McKay. You are fabulous and wonderful, and I love Guyanese swag. And I can't say Guyanese without saying it Guyanese. So I'm excited to be here and cut up with you, and hopefully that the audience, our viewers from around the world, has a good time and they're edutained after we're done this conversation.
All right, let's go for it. So the first question I always ask everyone, what part of Guyana were you born?
So I am a West Coast girl. Let me say it again. I'm a West Coast gal, okay? I am from Reed and Hoop, so Good Hope in Dutch, and I'm very, very proud of that. So even though I went to Queens College in Georgetown, I traveled daily either by bus or boat to get to Queens College, and I'm very proud of my heritage coming from Guyana, and specifically being a country gal.
So how old were you when you migrated to the U.S.?
Oh my goodness, it is actually now today, actually this weekend is my 19th year in the USA. So I've been in the USA officially for 19 years. I've been a US citizen for about 10 maybe, because I took my time to give up my full rights because I think I couldn't have dual citizenship or something like that. I think, but I'm always going to be a Guyanese, so they can't tell me not to. Moved to Guyana, from Guyana to Florida, and I lived in South Florida for 14 years. In the St. Lucie area, spent a lot of time in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, of course. Just love South Florida, but a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I moved to Arizona. And being as adventurous as I am and a little bit nomadic, I've been settled in Arizona much longer than I thought, but I kind of developed a love here. So I've been enjoying Arizona's what I call the weather is very on two ends. It's either really cold or really hot, but I think it's mostly perfect for me for now. I miss the beach, I miss tropical weather, but I like being able to wear my hair down. So I like missing the humidity of Guyana and South Florida.
That you have been through some dynamic changes in terms of location.
Yes.
What was that transition like from Florida, from Guyana then to Florida, and then from Florida to Arizona? What were those transitions like for you?
So let's talk about coming from Guyana to the USA just in general. And of course, Florida was my hub and my first place and where I lived permanently. It was a big difference in a lot of ways. I think that let's look at, there were pros and then there were cons. I mean, when we were growing up in Guyana, Key, I don't know if this was you, but you kind of always had family in the foreign, as you say. You had foreign family, and you were going to go to the US at some point. None of us didn't understand as kids that there was paperwork and there was a process, but auntie left, uncles left, grandma left, you know that you going. It didn't matter what, at some point you were going. So I was always coming to America. And so it's funny though, when you're growing up as a child, America sounds like a dream come true. Like it's the land of opportunities. And so it was weird for me though. I was between the USA, Canada, and the UK because I had family both places, all three of those places. And as I got older, going to Queens College, I felt like somehow I wanted to study in the UK, but it wasn't really a big option for me because there was paperwork for the USA. So I was always coming here. And I think I felt like once you come here, it's so much better and things are so much nicer, and the cold and the cute sweaters and all the jackets that you think about, and your clothes smelling like, I guess, laundry detergent is what I learned later on. There's these weird things we have, but once I came to the USA at age 24, it was kind of weird for me because I'd already started my own business. I had gone to University of Guyana. I had done so much and built myself up so much in Guyana, in the music industry. I sang gospel music. I was just starting to really get into my acting I did some plays with some major actors like Sheldon and even all the major ones. I act with John B and so many actors that maybe you might not know, but if I'm saying the names, guys, people like, yes. I was wrong with Desiree Edgell and all of them. I got into plays with them, and that was one of my goals. And I was just there. But when I came to the USA, I was like nobody. And it wasn't about being popular. It was about all the options that I had, and the fact that I had my own business and I had an education. And when I go to college to continue here, they're like, oh, those credits don't count. What do you mean? So for me, I felt such a loss of the connective. We have a community type feel in our towns and in our villages that it's not even about getting a cup of sugar. It's about just knowing there was someone there who kind of had your back. If you fell down on the street, somebody was going to pick you up or make sure you were okay. In the USA, it was like people didn't even say good morning. So it was like, it was less caring, it was less nurturing. And then I felt like my opportunities were stripped from me, which they told me you were coming here. Now, granted, I got off the plane on a Saturday, and by the Wednesday, I did get hired for a job, which is not common for a lot of people. These people were actually waiting. They knew my skill and ability to start a business from scratch, and they were waiting for me, and they interviewed me, loved me, and hired me. So I did get some income, but it was like minimum wage. And I'm like, I was making a lot of money in my country. I was comfortable. I had my own home, and now I'm renting and all these things. So it was a little bit of a twist for me in the beginning. But I think being Guyanese alone stands for resilience. I think that's one of the things that Guyanese stand for, is absolute resilience. And I also say making $1 out of 15 cents. Like, we know how to do that. So I was either very quickly, within a year, my ex-husband and I bought our own home, and we got 2 new cars and everything. And we did that off of pure hard work, our work. We were working at blue collar people, middle income earners in the USA, and we were able to do that. So it was like you were now trying to get back on the level that you were at in Guyana, which was weird, which is not what I expected. So there was a bit of a culture shock. It was just him and I mostly all the time. There wasn't a church family. You go to church, you say hi and you give hugs, but then you go home. In Guyana, you're hanging out, you're going to each other's house. Everybody was at our house on Sunday, and we're having dinner, then we're going back to church at Sunday. And it was such a community. So that never came back. And those things I had to mourn. I actually literally mourned the loss of moving to the USA. Moving to, by the time I moved to Arizona, it was just the heat. I had to learn about the dryness, but it was better for me because I had family here. In South Florida, I did not have any family. In the city where my ex and I lived, it was just us. So we were the only 2 people like us. We were the only 2 people that knew us. And so everything was new, and we're figuring out how to build and develop relationships that are mutually beneficial, but nothing like what you're used to growing up. And so I had to learn to say, embrace it, and not hold on to the fact that I'm used to this, because it's either I was going to embrace it or move back to Guyana. So that was the transition for me. I had a lot of mindset shifts that I needed.
You ended on a perfect question for me. Let's talk about that, because I feel like many times, from many people, regardless of if they're coming from the Caribbean, Guyana, or any other country, there's that whole battle that you go through with self. How much of me do I let go? How much of me do I keep? And then the process of how are you now blending these 2 cultures? Like, because then when you go back home, it's like, oh, you're Americanized now. And when you're here, it's like, you're not American enough. And how do you maintain that balance?
Listen, and that is the thing I say. And I remember that being the hard part within a 3-year span. That was being a hard part. The thing I learned, and this is why I go as the number 1 mindset disruptor, it's because I had to be disrupting my own mindset, my own thought processes, and my own comfortability in order for me to not, again, I learned I did not want to fit in. And I mentioned this to you earlier before we got on the interview, that you have to figure out who you are. And so coming from so much tradition and culture, as being a Christian Guyanese woman, and I say multi-ethnic and multicultural, right? I don't know any of us who are not really multi-ethnic or multicultural. Even if we are just think we're one race, we're still multicultural because of how what it truly means to be Guyanese. I realized that that was a gift, right? And so while a lot of people work hard, I come here and we're not the only ones. I've seen my Mexican friends and people that I become close with, that they're struggling. Am I too Mexican? Oh, my accent. And I'm like, no, this is what makes you you. And so I had to figure out that my accent, it was going to shift a little bit. I'm going to learn, because I'll tell you what, one of the first things I told you about that job I got, I started that business. But when it come to running the business, I was told, okay, wait for this, by the owner, that we're not going to put you in the spot of being the director, the principal, because of your accent. And this city, yes, ma'am, this city, they won't know what to do with that. And I'm afraid they might not want to enroll their children. So here's the thing. You just told me I was good enough to literally write your business plan, help you get funding, build, put the building together, order furniture, write the program, the curriculum, hire staff. But I'm not good enough to run it because I had an accent. And I promise you, I sound as the way I sound now. I always spoke proper English. So within 5 months, she was saying she had someone in the spot and they didn't do the job. And she came back to me and I say, oh, let me pray about it. Because I said, you know what happened? My accent didn't change. I still have the same accent. So let me pray about it, because we don't want people not to come now, you know? And I was being petty, but that was said to me. And I had two choices: go and try to force myself into a space where I'm trying to sound American, trying to sound, you see, there's a difference between picking up the art, being able to pick up the accent and the articulate over time, and trying to sound it. You do not, if you're listening to us today, you don't have to try to become anything. You have to try to connect to who you truly are more than anything. So the job is to do more work to get back here, not do more work to get in there. Okay. And that's the first mindset. And I had to learn that the thing that was unique about me when I opened my mouth is that I look like this and I sound like this. Number one, before people knew who I was and what I brought to the table academically, intuitively, or mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, it was going to be how I look, and it was going to be how I sound when the words came out of my mouth. And that was going to be, if I felt like I wasn't good enough, I didn't look good enough, and I didn't sound good enough, then I was right. And so they had every right to believe that I wasn't good enough and not receive me. So the confidence I had to gain was, why were you so great in Guyana and doing so well, and now you think you're just going to tuck in a role because your accent, you sound different? That's not going to happen. That's not who you were raised to be. So I took on the mindset that I was who I was, and what I brought to the table, everybody around me needed it. With the same accent, with the same curry fingernail. Girl, I was cooking curry. Listen, I was cooking my curry and getting my hands in the damn thing until I figured out to put a gloves on and not because now I had the white tips. So I was getting my nails done because the girls in Guyana did wonderful designs and you had different colors. So curry wasn't an issue. If you eat curry, you got a little curry on it, it didn't matter. But here they didn't know to do the designs we had. So I just went with the pink and white. So when I put curry there, it was everywhere. So I learned to put gloves, but I felt like the first mindset is that who I was, they needed. And so that was the one mindset shift that came so early of me transitioning from living and being full 100% in Guyanese culture and now being like technically a fish out of water. I had to bring my own water. I had to bring my secret sauce. And so I could be comfortable, but own who I was. And so once I owned who I was, I did take that position and I did some groundbreaking things. That business prospered and made money, doubled their income. And I also was able to do something in the state of Florida that had not been done, which was get the Florida VPK program Anytime you see a Christian school who is getting the Florida Volunteer Pre-K program, where a 4-year-old in the state of Florida is able to get 680 clock hours of free education in early childhood from the government, they were saying that Christian programs could not get it because we taught religion. I wrote the addendum and I proposed it to Department of Children and Families, and they had it approved, where yes, if we don't teach religion during those hours, we can still offer our program at no cost to a Florida 4-year-old. And that was me. That was me. I wrote that and I did that. And I'm very, very proud of it because, again, I was just like 2-3 years out of Guyana. And it was all the things that they told me I couldn't do, and I still was able to do because I got my mind in and I spoke with my accent. I spoke with confidence because I was just another person. I just sounded a little different and I just looked different and I ate different. And I was proud of who I am because everybody else was comfortable in who they were. But it didn't, what I brought to the table was needed. And so I tell you, don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you. Be confident with your accent and all that you bring.
First of all, we're gonna stop right there and take a break and give this woman a clap, because did y'all hear that she's the one responsible for all of the Christian churches in the state of Florida being able to get that grant? And do you know how many hundreds of thousands of kids that impacts?
Yes.
This woman right here, I told y'all.
Guyanese gal.
So, and you, oh my God, you said so many things that my brain is going like this with all these questions, because I clearly see how you got the #1 mindset disruptor out of that. What, going now from being that director of that organization and then writing that grant and doing all those amazing things, what was the breaking point for you that said, I want to go into mindset coaching?
So it was still a journey that was so long ago. I really took on my role in this sphere. It's only been 3 years now. Here's the thing. I believe that we each have a purpose. And so mine is exactly what I'm doing. And it turns out I've always been doing it. I've always been a speaker. I've always been a coach, and I've always been an author. That didn't change. It's just how much of it I was focused on and how I displayed it. And so when I talk to people about discovering, I used to say discover, but I now say connecting with your purpose by #1, connecting with your true values, core beliefs. Are your beliefs and your values truly yours? Once you figure out what those are, because remember, from environment, I talked about being a church girl, being a Vidanook girl, being a Guyanese girl, being all those things, have certain expectations that are put on us, right? And so the mindset shift that I had to make is, what are of these values that I carried and what I believe to be of myself and the limitations I hold of myself, or the things that are great about me, were based on the fact that I was holding up appearances to those things that I'm committed to and I love very much, versus how much of it is truly me. Remember, I said the work is to discover more of exactly who we are versus then how much more we need to do to fit in with yourself. So core values, true belief. And so once you do that, you're able to make decisions from a purpose grounded mindset, which is, who am I going to hang out with? Who do I get interviewed on? Everybody who I talk to and I meet, I don't go on their show because their show is not relevant to what I'm supposed to be talking and doing about. So my decisions are guided by my purpose, #1. So when you talk about what kind of, how did I get here? So when I told you in Guyana, I had my own literacy program, and it started by me not being able to find work in Guyana and having the academic sustainability where I came from. I went to Queens College. I did very well with Common Entrance, was number 30 in the Caribbean, all that wonderful stuff. So I was known for academic success. So people were asking me to tutor their children and help them so they can pass and do well in primary school, so to speak. And with one came another. So I went ahead, I got chosen by the government to be trained as a literacy facilitator. And I coupled that program with Hooked on Phonics that I had from the USA. And I made that literacy program because I realized the students weren't suffering from, they weren't slow, as we say, they just couldn't read and comprehend. So when it came to testing, they weren't passing. Because in Guyana, it's not a multiple choice. You can't guess. You got to know and you have to write. So with that being said, if you look at that, I was serving my community. I was actually teaching, and then I was coaching the parents on how to relate with their child based on their child's learning style. And then we got teachers in my literacy center that were now teaching math, English, science, and all the other things. So if you look at it, I was an entrepreneur and I was an educator. What is different about my journey right now? I'm still an entrepreneur and I'm still an educator. I have just changed over time, even working as a director of that program, working with the Department of Children and Families as an employability specialist, working as a career coach with the Department of Economic Opportunity in the state of Florida, same coaching. Nothing about my journey changed. It just evolved into a different sphere at different times of what it looked like. But why did I focus on mindset? If you listen to my journey, I had to keep making mindset shifts all the time to come back with resilience, to come back with standing on who I know I am and what I was created to be and what I was going to do. And so a lot of times I learned that I didn't have a limitation on nothing was limited around me. I had resources, but because my mind, the problem was always between how I was thinking and seeing myself. If you heard me earlier, I was saying that, hey, I thought that my accent was a problem. And guess what? People thought the same too, right? And they held me back. I thought that, oh my gosh, I'm not comfortable. Oh, I have to go back to school. Once I started to see a problem, I found more reasons to support what I saw. And the minute I thought I am good enough, who I am as a Guyanese girl, everybody wants what I have regardless. And the fact that I had some magic in Guyana, how about I figure out how to spread the same magic here? And so I go from a mindset of not, what should I do? It's how can I? So that shift is how can I? It's a different mindset that I had to ask myself that question and look for answers that support growth, that support change, that support prosperity, that support abundance, or I would be nothing. You wouldn't know me. So becoming the number one mindset disruptor is always been first my own journey of constantly growing and changing how I think and how I see the world to better myself. Not that I have challenges that are different than anyone. It looks different, but we all go through stuff. But my battles I started winning them here. And I learned, I studied, and I specialized in that area. And now my job is to make the science of how we think and what we do and show you the connectivity so you can change habits, behaviors, and also set goals that are more in alignment, number one, with your purpose, and set your mind in direction to go with where you want it to go. And that's where we disrupt limiting beliefs, we shift, and then we just set a whole new mindset to get what we want. So I do that in my writing, my speaking, my coaching, my training. Some people might see clips of me. Just recently, I started to talk more about me going through divorce and going through fertility treatments and all those things, and what that did to even my mindset, to my body, and how I had to bounce back from that. And that's why I specialize with women who are going through, I work with executives and stuff, but I mostly specialize with women who are transitioning, whether it's from a breakup, a divorce, loss, or just that empty nest syndrome, or just trying to figure out what's next for me as a woman. Because as women, I'm not saying that we are different or better than men, but we are the glue. We're the glue in society, and we are the ones, the other hand, that rock the cradle. And I believe that we have shifted a lot to the left and too much sometimes to the right, and we're not centered and balanced in who we are in the feminine and who we are and what our true purpose is in order to build a collaboration with the male. I can't tell men how to be men, but I can certainly help our women to be better women. And so that's what I do with my own, with this, of course, the studies and the science that I know, and also with my own journey, putting them together. And I come out with authenticity, and I talk, I share, I teach, I coach, I train, I've written, And so there we are. Here we are to the #1 mindset disruptor, international best-selling author, global workforce and business strategist. Because listen, after we have disrupt mindsets, shift limiting beliefs, throw out the old nasty ways of thinking and being as women, we're gonna get our coins. We're going to get our coins, girl.
And on that note, we're going to take a break for a message from today's sponsor, and we will be right back.
Meet Kim. She recently moved to a new neighborhood and has a craving for pine tart and cheese rolls. She Googled Guyanese restaurants in her neighborhood and received recommendations for Ghanaian restaurants instead. While she was at the park walking, her dog Kim ran into Susan, a fellow Guyanese, who introduced her to the Guyanese Swag Business Directory, a comprehensive listing of reputable Guyanese-owned businesses across the diaspora. Kim now regularly visits the GuyaneseSwag.net, where she can easily find trusted and reliable Guyanese-owned businesses and stay updated on upcoming events throughout the diaspora. Since the directory offers detailed business profiles, including pictures, videos, specials, contact information, and even reviews from neighbors, Kim is able to stay connected to her roots in her new home away from home. Register your business for free by visiting GuyaneseSwag.net.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're here with Dr. Alisa Whyte. She is the #1 mindset disruptor. For those of you who are just joining us, we're just going to jump right back into the questions. We left off with some really juicy stuff, so I want to pick back up there. Being Guyanese, #1 mindset disruptor, a Christian entrepreneur, each of these things have labels and sometimes, many times, perspectives of what people think. You're a Christian, so you should act like this. You're a Guyanese, so you should be like that. You're now living in America, so your life must be like this. How are you balancing all those labels and maintaining authenticity within yourself in each of those spaces? What does that look like for you?
So first of all, not to be rude, I unsubscribe. I subscribe to all the labels, but still I embrace 100% who I am, where I came from. Which #1 is, of course, I am always a proud Guyanese woman. And I get to call myself Guy American woman, but I am always going to be Guyanese first because that's where everything began for me. And a lot of who I am and what I've become, the resilience, the strength, and to become a global leader and a global thought leader and all the things that I get to do in the world, I believe its responsibility comes from me, #1 being Guyanese. So I embrace that label. But I guess a lot of times under Guyanese approval and circumstances, I will fail the test. I have had my Guyanese card taken from me. My family, they're like, girl, we taking away your Guyanese card. No, girl, we taking away your Black card. Being a Black American woman, like they take it away too. So I don't really even, so I had like, don't even let me start saying I unsubscribe. Girl, people took those things from me, okay? So it comes down to me and I say, just Alisa. And so, and again, sometimes I'm surprised of who the authentic parts of me by giving myself the permission, #1, to own my own values and my true beliefs. It's not that it wasn't impacted by being Christian, not that it was not impacted by being Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, Native American, Buffiander, whatever they call me, not that it wasn't impacted by that, but I only kept the ones that were true for me. And as I grow, I leave my mind in a space of having a growth mindset. You see, we can have a growth or a fixed mindset, and we can be balancing and bouncing back between both of those. I choose to stay on a growth mindset, which means I'm going to evolve. There were so many things I believed as a Guyanese Christian woman that don't serve me at all. Girl, I had to let those go. And I'm saying it doesn't serve me. It might serve my auntie. It might serve my cousins. And I'm not, the thing too is I also had, before I let go of judgment of other people in their journey, I had to first let go of judgment of myself. So what do I do with all those labels? Again, I unsubscribe. I'm more of, I get up and I get to do this. And I ask myself, like, for example, when I wanted to get healthier and have a healthier body weight and have my skin and all these things, who do I have to become in order to be the person that looks and feels this way. It means I cannot eat roti every day. And I don't eat rice every month either. And that is something you don't take from a Guyanese. But I had to release it in the last few chapters of my life in order to not have a bumble gut, in order to be able to go to the bathroom. TMI. But I can't live this American life where we don't get up and walk in hot sun to go shopping. We get in a car in AC, where I stay in most of the summer in Arizona because it's too hot to be outside. Right? In Guyana, when I had to go grocery shopping, I get the bus, I go to Border, and I walk through Border. The next thing you know, I go on to Big Market. I walk from Border down all the way Camp Street, and I get to Big Market, and I walk through Big Market and pick out the best fish, the best vegetables. Here, it's not like that. Sometimes I have to buy frozen vegetables, just because if I buy fresh vegetables, they're gonna go bad before I use all of them. All these shifts I had to make. I remember old Guyanese, being a Guyanese woman, you don't hot up food. You hot it up throughout the day, but you don't eat hot up food day 2, day 3. You cook fresh food. I had to be okay that in my health journey, I'm going to cook and prep my meals. Yes, I can cook some callaloo and blanche and cabbage and stuff, but I ain't even cooking no rice. I'm just eating vegetables and lean meat, chicken breast, right? I'm not eating all the pork I want. And so the meals are packed in a bowl to last me. And yes, I'm hotting it up, as we say. It's we say microwave in America, but in Guyana, it's hot up. I hot it up and I put it in my lunch bag with the ice packs, and I go to the office and then I hot it up. People are like, what smells so good? Because it got some jeera in there. It got jeera, and I probably put some curry in the damn callaloo. But anyway, it's my thing. I'm still Guyanese, but I had to change some things about what it meant to be Guyanese. I had to throw out the rice. I had to throw out eating roti. Like roti is a once every 3-month deal in my home. Like I made 6 roti and I only ate 1.5 in the last 3 days. I'm taking the rest to my mom. The discipline of not sitting there and eating. Now, some people, Key, you might be able to eat 3 roti today and it does nothing to you. For me, it's sheer problem. So does that mean I'm any less of a Guyanese? No, because when I was in India last year, everything they were cooking there, I was comfortable with. I knew I was comfortable eating it. That's what it means to be Guyanese. In Africa, the same thing. They're cooking beans and rice, and I'm comfortable with beans and rice and chicken. So being Guyanese is a blessing, but there's a lot of shifting that you have to do. The main thing I would say is be you. Don't let the labels control how you move and how you operate, because you're going to lose every time trying to live up to somebody else's issue. Let me tell you, I've seen them change the bar all the time, what it means to be a Guyanese woman, what it means to be an American woman, what it even means to be a woman. I don't know anymore. I'm confused these days. But what I know, I'm comfortable with just being me. So I would say to our viewers is embrace the labels and respect them, but don't get lost and caught up in them as your identity. You get to define who you are. And only you can. And I would do that from a purpose-driven mindset.
You took me right into the next question. So we've talked a lot and we kind of threw that word limiting belief, purpose-driven mindset, like those words we dabbled in there. But for those who don't know what they mean, break it down for us.
So let's talk. What is a limiting belief? So limiting beliefs are very, very sneaky because they come about and they seem like they're true, they're fact. For example, I said a couple of them. You can't be a Guyanese if you don't cook rice. It's a limiting belief because as a Guyanese, you're only Guyanese because you were born there. So the belief that you don't, once you hear somebody say you can't, you don't, and you shoulda, and you coulda, that's right there it's starting off as a limiting belief. For example, my accent is too thick for me to be on television. You don't usually see people talking the way I do in that type of space. As a matter of fact, women in general, you ever see a woman over there at that board meeting? That's all men over there. As a matter of fact, it's sheer blonde hair men with blue eyes, really, and glasses. So I don't know how you think you're going to go over there, Key, because that's not a space for you. It's a limiting belief. Why? How do we shift from that to that? I said it earlier. My point is, I know that these men, you're right. The obvious is yes, it's men with blonde hair, blue eyes, and glasses that sit on that community and make decisions about whether or not children are going to get free meals at school, right? But I want to be a part of that conversation. I know that I have a good idea and a concept of how we can actually deliver free meals to children. But because I'm sitting here thinking, you see who's over there? It's not my type, not my people, not even a woman. That's a limiting belief. When you shift from that, is how can I get over to where I can at least have a voice so they can hear me? When you shift from that to that, you are becoming solution oriented. And the reason why you're number one brave about, look, I need to figure out how come it's because you know that you have a voice and your work and who you are and what you become and that what you've done, it's based on your purpose. So your confidence level is not only based on what you can do, but knowing that you were created for it. So you find a way. For example, I did not necessarily sit here and say, oh, I want to speak in Africa, I want to speak. I did have the dream and the overall vision, but I didn't start off doing that, right? I start off, number one, by doing a video on my phone and saying, hi, I'm Dr. Alisa Whyte, and I want to tell you what a limiting belief is, and putting it on my social media and doing that over and over and over again. And then people start seeing me walking in my purpose, doing what I can do just with my phone, the microphone and the video, and posting it. And some of them I laugh at now because I was so stiff. And for me, somewhat still very much afraid and a little bit inauthentic because this is me. But if you see these videos, it's like, do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? It's like, I want to hear you being boring. But I love myself for trying. But a limiting belief is set to hold you back. Exactly what it says. It's limitation. When we talk of a purpose-driven mindset, it's the one where, again, now you're connecting to your true values, core beliefs. How do you do that? For example, we have values. Like for me, my values are I believe in fairness, equity, equality, balance. I believe in peace. And so for me, those things are so important. And I had to connect with that because there were times when I was settling in relationships and interactions where it was less than equitable. Or I was working in a space in a company that did not necessarily do right by its people. They're ripping them off. And so I was constantly on high irritation because for me, equity, honesty, and fairness is so important that I'm constantly aggravated in that work environment. So I had to disconnect. I didn't understand core values and true beliefs like I do now, but I understood that I wasn't comfortable there. And a lot of times when you see people doing certain things and you get irritated, it's a sign that that's one of your values being violated. You might be in a relationship and what the person is doing is fine, but it just really irritates you. One of your values might be stepping over. So when you connect with those now, you're able to say, you know what? I know that I was born to teach. I remember having this conversation with you, Key. You didn't say you were born to teach, but you understood that you had learned so much about your industry. And the best thing you can do is educate other people in order to better serve them. Now, you did not shift from your purpose from being in IT and tech and marketing. You just took on another dimension of your purpose in order to facilitate what you do best, which is the tech, which is the marketing, which is all that. You also became a talk show host because to facilitate your purpose and what you really love to do, you added dimensions of it, but you didn't change the core of who you are and what you do for do it. So you're still operating in your purpose. And that's what's bringing most fulfillment, is to see people's brands looking great, is to see the tech and have more companies and organizations flowing and having a good free flow in what they do. So our purpose, people get so like, if I live my purpose, I'm going to have to give up things. Like a lot of people say, you know what, I'm an attorney, but really and truly, I wish I was actually speaking. I wish I was coaching. You don't have to give up being legalistic and an attorney right away to walk in your purpose. You could still be practicing law, but sometimes saying, okay, let me mentor 2 or 3 youths in my community. Let me get some law students that are coming up younger and bring them in and teach them things that they don't teach them in college. And so your coaching ability and your desire to coach and train is coming out as well. And so it might be that for 5 to 10 years, you're still being an attorney and just doing this on the side, but you're still getting fulfillment of living your purpose. And that's why I say purpose does not always look like it's the one thing I do. It's the overall fulfillment that you have within in getting what you want out of life, but you still have to make money. And I tell everyone, you can monetize your purpose. And when I listen to how you did your work, how you created your business and grew it and turned it into several different things, it's you saying, you know what, I want to live my purpose. And I can't do that fully by working for someone else, because they're going to give me a job title and tell me, do the tech stuff, do this, but I'm not going to be fulfilled just doing the tech. I also have a passion to see entrepreneurs from my culture, my community, excelling and doing well. So that is also part of your purpose. So you learn how to link that with tech, connecting people, conversating with people, encouraging and motivating and inspiring them. So when you come into that space, for me, even if you have a bad month where you don't make, how I say your income is 10,000 and you only make 2,000 this month, you're going to figure out how to get back to your 10,000, but still find fulfillment because you're doing what you love. And so that begins to look so much fuller and freer. And that's me, because I still have a corporate job. But what I did was I switched corporate roles from just being an operations manager to where I am a coach, to where I am a program, where I'm training and teaching. So what I do at my corporate job, where someone's writing me a check, is also what I do in my entrepreneurial work and in my global work. So it's all in alignment. So either way, I'm not going out without enjoying everything I do. So I worked it out. And I tell people, you don't have an excuse for why you're not living your purpose. You're just lazy.
Let's talk about the global work, because I'm really excited about that. Just listening to Guyana, Florida, Arizona, and now we're going India, Africa. Talk to me about all of it. The global, what exactly are we doing globally? And what exactly are we doing globally? And how are you connecting that back to the purpose that we just talked about? So all 3 of those areas that we're moving and shaking things, how is that all connected?
Exactly. So I always tell everyone that my purpose, number one, I always subscribe to that of being an educator. That was the first thing I became, and that's still who I am. It's how I get to do it. I'm an educator at the core of everything I do. And so when it came to what that looks like in this chapter, how far did you want to go? I definitely knew that I had a call to speak to nations, to speak to, I think also the gift of communication that I have. I'm the gift of communication, but it's also a spirit of gentleness, of kindness, of openness, which again, I think being a multicultural Guyanese woman and growing up in a land of 6 people, 6 races, all 3 major religions, it set me up for global success. Let me just tell you, it really did. Because without me knowing it, I'm so comfortable just speaking to anyone and communicating with anyone. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do what I was created to do. I told you, I pulled out my phone, put it on here, and I started to talk and teach. And when people saw me doing that, I don't even know. I can't tell you how they found me. But I am a global peace ambassador for several organizations and even kingdoms around the globe. But that really took off. Yes, I was speaking. Yes, I was coaching. But I did 2 things that really launched the lens of the world on me. The first thing I did was I created a entrepreneurial program. It's sort of Entrepreneurial 101 for young people. It started off just for Ghana. So I created that program. I had it already. And so someone approached me from Ghana and said, hey, can you help me? I'm working with youth. I would love to have your input. Can you be a part of our board? And I was like, sure, let me see what you got going on. I'm like, okay, so what do you need from me? And they had a list of things. I said, I got you on entrepreneurship. Here's the thing, I'm thinking about this because I did it in Arizona for minority women with the state of Arizona State University. They took me on as a facilitator of a program to teach minority women entrepreneurship. And so I did that. And I was like, I wonder if I can do this program, which is mostly my content, for your youth. And he's like, if you can, I would love it. So we did that and put the link out. And the state of Arizona said they were backing me. We put the link out, and with less than 24 hours, we had 160 something youths applied. And they weren't only from Ghana, they were from all over the world. We had to shut the link down because I was only catering for about 50 of them, because my company, my personal organization, was sponsoring the program, all of the material. They were going to have a lab set up in Ghana for them and everything. I was sponsoring it. So I had a limit. Well, I needed to go through all these applications and figure out, you should have seen these young people anywhere between just finishing high school, having a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. They didn't have work, and they were passionate about building well systems and water systems in their communities. And they just didn't know where to start with, number one, putting the idea together without making a pitch to get funding and things like that. So all that was part of the program. I did do 50, and we had youths from Trinidad and Tobago, Ghana, Nigeria, Pakistan, India, and that was another. So I had one girl, I think, from Somalia. So it became a global entrepreneurial. That's what I call it. I call it the Global Entrepreneurs Think Tank. And so that went on. When people heard that I did that, a lot of different people start reaching out to me. Can you help me with my youth program? Can you help me with my youth program? Can you be on my board? And it was so much I had to get to where I'm just going to be able to give you advisement and how and what to do. But some bigger organization wants me to hold a seat. So I end up holding a seat, end up being an ambassador. And then I had the privilege, us Christians, we have our tithes and offering, right? And so during the pandemic, I was not going to a physical church. And I heard about these children, and I met them virtually on camera, that when it rained, they went to school under a tree in the countryside in Ghana. And when it rained, they didn't have school. And so May, June rain, just like in Guyana, I think they call it Hamatan. It's raining. So they're not going to school for months at a time sometimes, because school is under a big tree with the blackboard and some chairs. And so I said, the prince that we were peace ambassadors on a committee. He said, I've been trying to get help, and Megan said, I got you. So I took my tithe and offering, and every month I was buying materials, and then I put some extra, like I didn't do my nails for some months. So I could take all that money and bought stuff, and we built that building. And so we put running water, and we started use money to get food. We got some donations from communities, but not a lot. Community like stores and stuff to give rice and tomato. And so they got food. And that building is not all the way complete and perfect, but they can go there whether it's rain or sun. They have running water. And so with that project brought a lot of global attention. I was doing this in a quiet zone. I didn't know it's, the little church girl, you see a need, you help, right? We did that in Guyana all the time. We took some of our clothes and give it to the kids down the street that just had a single parent mother and she wasn't working, whatever. That's what we do. And the prince, he told everybody. He wrote several organizations and told them about what I did, and that brought even more global attention. Once they realized that I was speaking, coaching, and training, and also I had the ability of strategic operational planning, starting a company, planning, keeping your staff motivating and in the right direction and where they need to go, setting up systems, it was off from there. So the consulting started. So right now, Dubai, India, and I've had to kind of shed, different things and empower other people to step up, like more quote unquote, just back them up and not sit in those positions, because I wouldn't get any sleep at night. I had to become disciplined But it's amazing what you will get to do when you say yes to you and what you were created for. And so that is the story. That is my story. And I'm growing and growing and growing and growing. Recently, I functioned for a while as the prime minister of a kingdom here in Atlanta, Georgia, and that was an honor. I did do for one kingdom that it's based out of the Philippines. I did work as their foreign affairs minister for a while in 2021, but last year and part of this year, being prime minister was an honor to be given that title and do that work and still do some global communication on behalf of that kingdom and building what they're doing. This kingdom was out of Atlanta. The king is Numi no Media Kingdom. And so that was an honor. And everybody's like, how? And I say, me, I don't even know, because I'm just being me. I'm just doing what I do. And it turns out that, you know what, it helps people. And when you say yes, again, to purpose, and you have a pure heart, and you have a growth mindset, because listen, everybody thinks that I get to lead people. Do you know the life-changing lessons? If you just go on my social media, on Facebook mainly, where I just write little tweets, all the things I post are growth. It's growth. It's places I have grown. I'm not writing about nobody. I am writing about me. So I am growing. I'm becoming just a better woman, a better human. And my hope is to just keep igniting other individuals, especially women, to do the same.
I want to take your brain and pick all the questions that I have out of there. You tapped on something that I think a lot of people don't understand. For us who are Christian, we understand the purpose of tithing, we understand the concept of it,
Yeah.
but we'll put it in global language, generosity.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand the power of generosity and how it blossoms in every area of your life. Talk about
the power of generosity. I always have a little tagline. I say, be gentle with yourself. What I've learned about my journey, and a lot of just dealing with humans and studying and understanding, is that a lot of times we struggle with being kind and gentle and generous with ourselves. And so when we look out, we are really struggling in our relationships and our relationships with humanity, because it's an issue with ourselves. You see, I talk about a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. And a scarcity mindset is one which says, everybody has a podcast. If I do a podcast, who's going to listen when everybody I know got one? We talked about this earlier. Well, no one can have a podcast like you can, like he can. The people that she's going to bring and the conversation she's going to co-create with them, it's going to be different from mine. But that scarcity mindset says that there's not enough. So people tend to hold back on, number one, people think that giving is only giving money or giving sometimes your time. But really and truly, it's not, there's no limitation on giving. I remember a few years ago when I committed that when I go out in the world, I want that even if I didn't look at someone and they didn't look at me, we didn't make eye contact, that people felt some level of peace. And if I had the chance to interact with them, that they would get ignited with some level of excitement for life, right? So that was a desire that became what I would say generosity, which means I'm going to live myself to be a light. You know, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Literally. And people think this little light of mine means you have to have this crazy, this bubbly personality that I have. This is my bubbly personality. It is not everybody's bubbly personality, but you still have light. So if you determine that you're going to be a light and a peace agent, before I became global peace ambassador, golden ambassador, all the wonderful things that I am in the peace arena, I had to start to be that at home and with myself first, which means in my relationships, when someone says, I'm like, oh, I'm hearing you say that you don't like when I do blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to try to change. Never mind when I did it for them, I had the best intention. I really meant well, but they're, as we would say in Guyana, they going off on me. They're crazy. I have two choices: go back off on them, or listen and try to understand and validate what they're feeling in the moment. And a lot of things changed in different relationships with me. So before you're a global peace ambassador, yes, I had to learn to be at peace in the relationships that I have. Am I 100% perfect? No. Sometimes I just go off too, because it depends. I don't know, my hormones that day or whatever. I have my moments. I'm not perfect. But the intention and the consciousness and awareness to be generous and be kind is there. But also, it started with me saying, you know what? I'm not going to do this today. I don't feel good. I have a headache. I'm not going to work. Because, you know, some of us Guyanese, when we come to America, as they say, we become workaholics. They laugh about Jamaicans, but Guyanese do it. Mexicans do it. We all do it when we come from overseas. We do it more than Americans. Americans do it, but we do it more. And so I had to learn the discipline of being generous and kind to myself and say, you know what? Today I am going to stay home. And you know what? I'm not going to be productive with writing my book a little bit forward. I'm going to be productive with sitting my hiney on the couch, flip through the television, probably call a friend, probably not talk to anyone, drink 2 cups of coffee, read a book or not, or just lay there, hair a mess, whatever. And that was being gentle to myself. Sometimes being gentle to myself is going to get a massage. Sometimes being gentle to myself is doing my own damn pedicure. But when you learn how to love, and I talk about my basis is where you're taking care, your belief systems, your authenticity, your self-responsibility, your energy, and your self-love. Those things you have to do and become for yourself. You can't be in the world what you haven't learned to be for yourself. So when I see people struggle with being nice and generous, I realize that number one, there might be a little bit of a scarcity mindset where they don't think there's enough for everybody. You know, the cutthroat, the crabs in the barrel system. That's real. I'm not defying that, but we don't have to do that. It's a mindset of scarcity that makes us want to pull each other down because listen, there's not enough. So if Key gets it first, that means if she gets it first, there ain't gonna be enough for me. I teach and I talk and I live by, there is more than enough of money and resources for everything that I want to do. And I am it's finding its way for me as I journey my way to it. And I literally live there. It sounds noble, but it's reality. If I tell myself there's enough, you better believe, even when I gave what seemed to be my last, I have never been without. And so we talk about the tithe. And so I get in trouble because I just told you that I took mine and I didn't give it to the church that I belong to, and I still don't. Sorry, people, but God did not tell me where to give my tithe to. He said, give it. And so I have a little bit more control of where God has allowed me to be and serve. Of maybe it's the church because they have a youth program that I'm going to give them this month's tithe, but next month it's going to Pakistan to those children who need food. Okay. And some people are like, well, no, your tithe is for the church and then you can give a gift. Oh, so you determine that I have more than my tithe. So I give you my tithe so that you decide what to do with it. So you can fulfill your purpose in the earth. And then mine is just hoping somebody comes along and sponsor it. I don't know. I'm not going to argue that, but that's me. I shifted from being locked in to only what someone told me, to be free in my spirit and say, okay, God, where do you want me to put it? I have my family. We have an organization, Know God Daily. There's a lot of us across the United States that put our tithes in Know God Daily, and Know God Daily doesn't do anything. But guess what? If Key has a project she's working at, or someone dies in her family and she needs $3,000, it comes from there and it goes, you get to bury your dad with the $3,000. It doesn't go to a church. It's not even a church that we have. And none of us are giving our tithe to a church. We're pooling it and storing it up to help someone in need. And so that's a shift. that a whole group of Christian people who still is wildly passionate about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and what he did for us, but we had to move out of being stuck in a format that gives someone else the power and the authority to decide what they're going to do with the resources that God give us. Because see, I'm not responsible for what anybody does. I'm responsible for what I do. And when God, you remember the servants with the talents in the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay, which one? As a child, I remember thinking, I don't want to be the one who buried everything.
Right.
And I remember, I don't want to be the one who didn't productively do anything. I'd rather have one and really do some stuff. So hello, that's what we're doing. This is why if I do it here, I do it there, and I do it there. And sometimes people think you need a whole lot of money. A lot of people say, so how did you, hello, my website, I built it myself. And I don't know how to build websites, but we needed one. We needed somewhere for people to go. So we built one. She, her, me. We built one. And so I laughed because let me work. So girl, I built that thing myself because at the time I paid people, wow, $2,000. They still haven't built that website. They sent me samples and it was not coming up. I was like, just forget it. I just let them, I started building my own and I guess, I don't know, that money's been 3 years now. So that money probably went down the drain. But again, I tried to have someone build it, but they weren't doing what I want. And then I would need to pay them what, $2,000 a month to manage it. And so I don't have any control. I was like, okay, we're doing this ourselves. And one of my youths are like, Dr. Lisa, I'll build your website. I'm like, no, it's all right, I got it. It's okay. You can build it later. I'm building it right now because it's going to have what I need on it. And then later we can figure out the rest. But what I'm saying is, if I thought I needed $10,000 to maintain a website that someone built, I wouldn't have one because I didn't have that money back then, right? But I was determined to do what I needed to do, and I was committed to doing it, so I did it. I didn't wait for the lights and the studio I have now. I sat in my room and recorded videos, and I created a course, and I didn't know how to do a sales page, so I did it for free. My first master class had 26 registrants and I only took 20, but it was for free, 15 weeks. Wow. It was an impactful master class and everyone loved it. I had men and women come, but I didn't make a dime because I wasn't confident that anybody would even want it. I was surprised. I knew what I was going to teach, but I didn't know how to do all that stuff. And so, but that turned out great. And all 20 of them went through the entire program and they graduated and they give me some whopping testimonials. But the thing is, I wanted to get what I had inside out of me, and there were going to be no excuses. And then later on, I learned how to build a funnel. Later on, I figured out how to monetize it. But I started doing what I was supposed to do. And you see where I am now. I'm going to Dubai in July and I'm going to do some business there and I'm going to do awards and all that stuff. And we're building all that and we're still doing stuff in Africa. But that's because I started. So when you talk about purpose and what kind of mindset you have, you got to learn to be kind to yourself and you got to learn to give. I give, and I'm not talking about just money. I'm talking about time and resources. And I think the biggest gift anyone can give me is their time. And so I give whenever there's youths all over the world that can never pay me for my coaching. But every once in a while, I take one of them under my wing and I coach them and I see the breakthrough in their life. And I learn more about myself and I learn more about how I'm supposed to fix my program and what people are really looking for by just giving. I get more out of my free clients than my paid clients. Well, of course, I don't just give it to anybody for free. It's going to be people who are going to use it, right? But what I'm saying is sometimes people who pay for it, they're just paying and then they're like, oh, I didn't get this done. Oh, they're showing up and not doing the work. The people who are free who knows that, listen, this lady's giving me this for free and I don't know when I'm going to get the opportunity. They're like, I'm done, Dr. Lisa. Dr. Lisa, are you ready? Dr. Lisa, I did this. Can you check this? Can you do that? And they're more committed. It's weird how that works, but whatever. I just do. I get up and do. So, and I take very good care of myself So be kind to yourself and be kind to other people and be patient. You're growing and so are other people. Some people haven't gotten some of the breakthroughs and mindset shift I've got, and I would share with them and I listen to them, and I love them just the same, because their journey is theirs and mine is mine. So yes, we can definitely be generous, but it starts with ourselves and understanding there's more than enough for all of us.
I love this conversation, and I promise I don't want it to end, but I want to be respectful of your time as we've already gone over. I have one final question for you, concluding all of this, and going back to Dr. Alisa. You talked earlier about going through the process of divorce and fertility treatment and all these things that sometimes in Guyanese culture is quote unquote taboo to talk about. And you being your authentic self and being comfortable with saying, this is my journey, this is what I went through, and this is who I am now. And because of it, I'm able to help other people.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
So I share quickly, my journey has been from Guyana. I suffered a head injury that cost me a memory loss. And so again, when we talk about mindset disruptor, if you connect with me on my platforms, you can hear more about that and how that works for me. But I did go through a divorce. I've been divorced now for 4 years. We separated 7 years ago and stayed separated, and then finally divorced. My ex remarried just months after a divorce. I always talk about us having a conscious divorce where we sat down and the conversation was our relationship and where we were. Particularly me, it was more built around me. My ex said, you're not able, with all the things that we have gone through and the environment that I have co-created with you, it's not futile. It doesn't really help you with your purpose, really. This is what this man said to me. And I had to look over at him and say, for the first time, even though I didn't want to let go, you know what, you're right. Let's separate. And we did. And eventually we never got back together. We didn't know how that was going, but we didn't get back together. And to me, I remember us saying, sometimes saying yes to your purpose does have losses. And so I couldn't see it, but he did. And it was either sometimes you get in relationships and you're watering yourself down and your vision, and it's not just marital or romantic relationships. You're watering yourself down or running or not able to fulfill your purpose because you're rolling in that space. And so for me, that was a yes. Here's the thing. There was a lot that went on in that relationship, right? And I wouldn't be able to talk about it today. But one of the biggest things we dealt with was we weren't able to have children, and we went through a lot of different things. And finally it was, okay, we have to do IVF. We did IVF. We did 3 rounds of treatment and got pregnant finally. And then before the second month, just before the second month, I miscarried twins. And that was so devastating. I think that alone shook our relationship. It even shook, well, where the heck is God? Why would you do this after everything? You know, we are good Christian people. We've done what we're supposed to do. You know, like I didn't mess around. I never had an abortion. All the things that we're told that traditionally. And so why did that happen? You know, it brings you to a place of like, you know, as a Guyanese woman, like you get married, you have kids. Like, who am I? I'm not even a woman if I'm not going to have kids. I don't know that I thought so too much then, but I did have a subtle attachment to it. And so I felt kind of lost. And then when the marriage ended, ooh, that was like, who am I really? Like, if I just take me now, literally, I wanted to die. I literally wanted to die. And so that's when the work begins. It was either I lived or I died. Like living in the gray area where I was deadly. It was poisonous. It was painful. And I couldn't take it anymore. And again, how many women do we know that are going through similar things, but everything seems okay, but it's not. And then finally they break down, they fall apart, or they withdraw, or they lash out, or they get sick, and then they die. And we don't know what just happened, but something was not right the whole time. I learned that my situation might be somewhat different, but many, many millions of women, even in our Caribbean Guyanese communities are suffering with the same things and no one's saying anything. And we're still trapped in some kind of box of this didn't happen, so I can't be anything good. I can't live out. And we're like, we're in church. We're going to church every Sunday. We're quote unquote worshiping God, but we're still kind of angry and mad at God and disappointed and blaming ourselves for all kinds of things. And so my task as your number one mindset disruptor, as your sister, is to tell you that before you were entitled in line or in track or whatever to be a wife, a mother, a lawyer, an attorney, all these wonderful titles and labels, as you said, Key, you were created as a child of God and you have a purpose. And if you know anything, I subscribe life and life more abundantly. I'm not going to preach Bible to anyone because I think everybody wants to do well in life. I think a lot of us want to be happy. I think all of us wants joy. But here's the thing. I always say we're not truly seeking joy and happiness. What we're truly seeking in life is peace with ourselves. And then we get to co-create that with other people. So how can you be at peace with yourself when you don't know you are and you're tied into an identity of wife, mother, lawyer, doctor, homemaker, whatever it is for you? And so I ask you, and in my journey, when I talk about all those things that I've gone through, and I'm launching a program in a few weeks that is called From Breakdowns to Breakthrough, Broken to Badass, Healing from Loss, Divorce, and Trauma, all of it specifically for women who are leading, women who are leading in home, leading corporate, wherever you are, we're all leaders. She rose to lead. I want to talk about it and show you how you can completely forgive yourself, forgive the key people and players in the role, put that aside, become more connected to your true values, core belief, become self-aware, and also take responsibility for your happiness, your joy, your peace, connect with your purpose, true values, lead, whether it's in your career or business. It is a whole system called Broken to Badass. Some people are not going to like it, and some people are going to like it. But that's what I'm doing. And that, for me, it's taking me about 4 years to launch that program. But it's really for the woman who has lost, who has divorced, who has gone through a breakup, who has whatever, has to change career, lost her job. If you have had any type of loss or you feel any kind of stuck, that's the program that I want to share with you. It's my own journey, but the science is going to be simplified on forgiveness, healing, recovery, and breaking through in your purpose and what you were created to do. So that's my story. That's my life.
And for those who want to sign up for the program and want to connect with you as a whole, Dr. Alisa, how do they do that?
Listen, go to www.alisawhyte.com. That's ALISAWHY. That Y is not an I, Y for you, TE.com. Or you can find me on all social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of it, Dr. Alisa, or just put Alisa Whyte, you'll find me and connect with me. If for all those viewers who are watching, if you're watching wherever you're watching us, you can go to my Instagram. First, hit follow and then inbox me and say mindset shift. You use the word mindset shift and I will send you a free gift on how to shift a limiting belief for good and move on. So that's a special gift. It's not the one that's on my website. My website has 21 days to a limiting beliefs. You can subscribe and get that as well. But this one is one that I have just for viewers who follow me on Instagram and send me a message that says mindset. I will send it to your email. You'll give me your email address and I'll send it directly to you. As a matter of fact, I'll just give it to you on Instagram. So that's how you connect with me. And I would love to have you be a part of the program. If you're thinking, don't even worry about how much it's going to cost. It's going to be a big surprise how much it's going to cost. So we actually have a pilot program that's starting before we even fully launch the program. And the pilot is going to have more stuff than the program itself, because the pilot is piloting a couple different things, including that. So if you want to be in the pilot, also just send me the words pilot in my inbox, wherever you're seeing this, and I will get you into the pilot program, because that one is not going to be advertised.
What an amazing gift this conversation was, Dr. Alisa. Is really amazing. And as you guys can see, this woman knows what she's talking about. Thank you for being here with us, Dr. Alisa. We really appreciate your time. And for those of you who have never heard of this woman, never seen her, you don't know who she is, please click the links in the description and connect with her. Her program is amazing. She's doing amazing work, not just in Guyana and here in America, but all around the world. She's a true ambassador to peace and love and kindness. Thank you, Dr. Alisa.
Thank you so much for having me. And I am so proud of you, my Guyanese sister. And now you're stuck with me. now, now you're stuck with me. So I am proud of what you're doing. And I can't wait to see. I bless you to do even more. And I will see you all soon.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go out and be phenomenal.
Bye.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit that notification bell.